Hello and welcome to this session on data pre-processing. In this session, we are going to discuss about dropping of redundant rows or columns. That is dropping the data. How do we drop like redundant values here? So for this, like we'll be using a data set. We'll just take a small data and we'll work around that, and we'll understand the concept of dropping data using Python packages and all. So here first is we'll be importing NumPy and we'll be importing pandas. So these are just the basic packages which we need here. So we'll just write it down as importing packages. So once we import the package, next thing is we'll be loading the data set. So here we'll use this data, that is the CSV data which we have, that is data sets weather data.csv. Now if we look at this data, there are almost like 9 records here, and we have, like, we can say check the shape. So 9 records and 4 columns are there, and here we can see a lot of null values are there, like it has a lot of missing value and other thing, and we have certain values also. Now in this session we are just going to see how do we drop data of our choice. That is, how do we drop a specific column. Like suppose we don't need a column, there is a redundant column, an extra column, or a repeated column, or a reference column, like we don't want that particular column. Then how do we drop that? How do we drop a particular row like which we don't need? So that's what we'll be looking at here. So now suppose I want to drop a specific row by index. Like suppose I want to drop a specific record. So how do I drop a specific record? So that's what we'll see first here. That is dropping of rows or records by index. By selecting the index, we can drop the record. So we'll just look at, we'll just practice that. So that is dropping rows by index label. So whatever is the index, we can just take that and we can drop a specific row. So here I will say new data is nothing but, okay, data is in df format. I'll say new df is nothing but df dot. So we have this df. Suppose I want to drop this specific record. I want to drop this 1/4/2017, this entire record of index 1. Suppose I want to drop this row. Now to drop that specific row, I can just write here df dot drop. So there is a method in pandas drop. So using this method we can drop, and we can pass the index which we want to drop. And here we can just write axis equals 0. That is the entire row we want to drop here. So once we run this and again I check the data, so we can see here that the row number 1, that is the row having index 1 as label, has been dropped. So this is how we can drop a specific row in this pandas data frame. Like whenever our data is in data frame format, we can use this method drop, and we can pass the index, whatever index we want to drop, and axis 0. Now here suppose I want to drop a specific column. So we just saw how to drop row. Now suppose I want to see like how to drop a specific column. Now suppose here I don't need this wind speed column, I just want to drop it. So how do I drop this entire attribute, this entire column value? So now we'll see dropping of column. Or we can say feature or attribute. So how do we drop a specific column? Now we have this data set df in which we have all this column, and here I want to drop this wind speed. Now to drop that, we can just create this new data, and here I will say df dot drop, and here we can pass the column in square bracket like as a list. So here I'll say I want to drop this wind speed, so I'll just say wind speed, and axis is 1 now. So earlier axis was 0, now axis would be 1, so that it can drop the entire all the row values for this specific column. So axis is 1. So here once I run this and I check the new df, we can see that that column has been dropped. Now wind speed column is not there. So this is how we can drop the values from a particular data set, like dropping the records with respect to column. Now here suppose I want to drop multiple columns. Now how do I drop multiple columns? Suppose I want to drop, like if I take this df, I have all these values, like all these columns in df. I want to drop temperature as well as wind speed. I want to drop both of this. So how do I drop this? So now to drop multiple things from a data, what we can do is same code we will take, that is df dot drop of wind speed, comma we can pass one more attribute, that is nothing but temperature. So I want to drop here wind speed as well as temperature, both the records. So now once we run this and print the new df, we can see here only day and event is there. So from the entire data, only day and event is left. So it has dropped this data. Now one more thing is, like whenever we are dropping, this drop function or drop method is actually instance specific. That's why like it is not affecting the actual data set. Like whenever I'm printing df, I'm getting all the values as usual. Just to store that data, as it is instance specific, we are storing this operation in this particular variable. Every time we are doing the operation, we are storing it in some variable. Suppose I don't want to store, like I want to just update this record directly. Whatever operation I am doing, I just want to affect this df variable. I just want it to affect this df variable, that is the data frame, directly. So now for that, what we can do is, suppose I want to drop this wind speed from data frame variable. So we can just write like this, instead of assigning it to another variable, we can just write df dot drop. And suppose I want to remove this wind speed from here. So I will say remove wind speed, comma axis is nothing but, yeah, axis is 1, and we can pass one more argument here, that is in place equals true. So when we pass in place equals true, so t should be capital, it should be a boolean value. So once we pass that, it will override the df with this new functionality, that is like it will remove wind speed from df itself. Now once I execute this and again print df, we can see that in df itself wind speed is not present. So this is how like we can overwrite an existing variable in Python pandas. Now this is how like we can work around with data. This is also a process of data cleaning, or we can say data pre-processing step, where we can remove any redundant data. Suppose we don't need a specific column, we can just remove it by using this drop method. We don't need a specific row, we can just remove it by this drop method. So this is how we can drop the data. So this is all for this session. Thank you for attending.